We used two of the most advanced AI models to create two characters. We will put them face to face. Their arguments will be evaluated by 5 independent AI models across multiple criteria, scored from 0 to 100. This is AI Debates. What is the ultimate goal of your economic system?
The ultimate goal of socialism is to build an economy that serves people, not profits. That means ensuring that everyone has access to the essentials of a dignified life: healthcare, housing, education, meaningful work without being held hostage by private profit motives. Socialism aims to reduce inequality by redistributing resources more fairly, giving workers a real say in how production is organized, and prioritizing human well-being over shareholder returns. Unlike capitalism, which rewards the concentration of wealth and power in a few hands, socialism seeks to democratize the economy so that the benefits of technological progress and productivity are shared by all. In short, its goal is a society where freedom and opportunity are not determined by birth, class, or inherited capital, but are guaranteed as basic rights for everyone.
The ultimate goal of capitalism is to maximize human flourishing through individual freedom and voluntary cooperation. By protecting private property rights and enabling free exchange, capitalism unleashes human creativity and ambition, allowing people to pursue their own vision of prosperity while serving others' needs. The market's invisible hand channels self-interest toward social benefit. When individuals compete to provide value to others, everyone benefits. This system has lifted billions from poverty, sparked unprecedented innovation, and created the wealth that funds everything from medical breakthroughs to charitable giving. Capitalism's genius is that it doesn't require perfect people or central planners. It harnesses human nature as it actually exists. The result: the greatest expansion of opportunity, living standards, and personal liberty in human history. The goal isn't equality of outcome, but equality of opportunity within a system that rewards merit, effort, and value creation.
Does individual freedom outweigh collective responsibility?
No. Individual freedom and collective responsibility are not opposites, they depend on each other. True freedom isn't just the ability to choose in the marketplace, it's the ability to live without fear of hunger, sickness, or poverty. Under capitalism, freedom often means the wealthy are free to dominate, while the majority are forced into economic dependence. Socialism argues that real individual freedom can only exist when collective responsibility ensures everyone's basic needs are met. A society that provides healthcare, education, housing, and fair wages empowers people to pursue their talents and dreams without being trapped by survival struggles. In other words, without collective responsibility, freedom is an illusion available only to the privileged few. With it, freedom becomes real for the many.
Individual freedom doesn't oppose collective responsibility, it enables it. Capitalism creates the strongest foundation for collective welfare precisely because it respects individual choice. When people are free to make their own decisions, they take personal responsibility for outcomes. This creates a culture of self-reliance and initiative that benefits everyone. Free individuals voluntarily form communities, businesses, and charitable organizations that address collective needs more effectively than government coercion. The market itself is collective responsibility in action. Millions of people cooperating through voluntary exchange, each contributing their unique skills and knowledge. No central planner could coordinate this complexity. History shows that societies prioritizing individual liberty generate more wealth for collective benefit than those emphasizing forced equality. Free people are generous people. Americans donate more to charity than citizens of any other nation. True collective responsibility emerges from free choice, not government mandate. When individuals are free to prosper, they create the resources and incentives that lift entire societies.
Is inequality a natural result of human society, or a flaw to be corrected?
Inequality is not an inevitable feature of human society. It's a result of how we structure our economy and distribute power. Of course, people differ in talent and interest, but that doesn't justify extremes where some hoard billions while others struggle to eat. Capitalism turns these natural differences into massive hierarchies by concentrating ownership and rewarding wealth, not contribution. Socialism doesn't aim to erase all differences, it aims to correct the systemic inequalities that deny people equal dignity and opportunity. When everyone has access to healthcare, education, housing, and a voice in the workplace, individual differences enrich society rather than divide it. Inequality, as it exists today, is not natural, it's a flaw of a system designed to benefit the few, and it can be corrected by building one designed for the many.
Inequality is a natural and even beneficial result of human diversity, not a flaw to be corrected. People have different talents, interests, work ethics, risk tolerances, and life priorities. Equal outcomes would only be possible by suppressing these natural differences. What matters isn't eliminating inequality, but ensuring it reflects merit and choice rather than privilege or corruption. Capitalism does this better than any alternative by rewarding value creation over political connections. Some inequality actually drives progress. Entrepreneurs risk everything to innovate, knowing success brings rewards. This creates new industries, jobs, and products that benefit everyone. The inequality between Bill Gates and average workers also represents the millions of jobs Microsoft created and the technological revolution it enabled. Forced equality destroys incentives for excellence, innovation, and hard work. The Soviet Union proved that attempting to eliminate inequality just creates different inequalities between party members and citizens, or between those with political power and those without. Capitalism's inequality is dynamic and merit-based, not static. It rewards those who serve others' needs best. Retry.
Should the state play a central role in organizing the economy?
Yes, the state should play a central role, because leaving the economy to free markets simply means leaving it to corporations and the wealthy to decide our future. Markets on their own don't care if people have housing, if workers are exploited, or if the planet is destroyed for profit. A democratic state, accountable to its citizens, can coordinate resources to serve social needs, universal health care, infrastructure, education, environmental protection, and fair labor standards. That doesn't mean micromanaging every transaction. It means setting priorities and ensuring essential sectors aren't run for private gain. In socialism, the state is not a tool of elites, but a mechanism through which people collectively decide how wealth and production should be directed. Without a strong organizing role for the state, freedom and security are reserved only for those who can afford them.
The state should play a minimal role in organizing the economy, protecting property rights, enforcing contracts, and maintaining rule of law, but not directing economic activity. Markets organize themselves far more efficiently than any government could. Prices automatically coordinate the decisions of millions of people, allocating resources where they're most valued. No central authority possesses the knowledge needed to plan complex modern economies. When states try to organize economies, they inevitably create shortages, surpluses, and inefficiencies. Venezuela, Cuba, and the Soviet Union demonstrate this failure repeatedly. Even well-intentioned government intervention creates unintended consequences and stifles innovation. The state's proper role is referee, not player. It should prevent fraud and coercion, maintain competition, and provide essential public goods like defense and courts. Beyond that, bureaucrats picking winners and losers leads to cronyism and corruption. Free markets self-correct through profit and loss signals. Government programs, once established, persist regardless of failure. Private businesses must satisfy customers or fail. Governments just demand more taxpayer money.
Which system better aligns with human nature?
Socialism better aligns with human nature because humans are inherently social beings. We've survived and progressed not through ruthless competition, but through cooperation, care, and shared responsibility. Capitalism exaggerates selfishness, treating greed as natural and desirable, while ignoring solidarity and empathy. Yet everyday life shows the opposite. Families, communities, and even workplaces function best when people collaborate and support each other. Socialism builds on this cooperative instinct, ensuring that individual talents serve both personal fulfillment and collective well-being. It doesn't deny ambition or creativity, it channels them toward goals that uplift everyone, not just a few. Human nature is not fixed as selfish or altruistic, it adapts to the system. A society that rewards exploitation creates selfishness, while one that values cooperation brings out the best in us.
Capitalism perfectly aligns with human nature because it accepts people as they are, not as idealists wish they were. Humans are naturally self-interested, competitive, and motivated by personal gain. Capitalism harnesses these traits productively. When you must serve others' needs to profit, self-interest becomes socially beneficial. The baker doesn't bake from altruism, but we still get bread. Socialism requires people to suppress natural instincts and work purely for collective good, an impossible standard that inevitably fails. Even socialist leaders like Stalin and Mao were driven by personal power, not collective welfare. Humans also naturally form hierarchies based on competence and contribution. Capitalism allows these hierarchies to emerge organically through merit, while socialism either denies this reality or imposes artificial hierarchies through political force. We are also naturally innovative and entrepreneurial. Capitalism rewards these traits while socialism suppresses them. Private ownership motivates care and improvement. Collective ownership leads to neglect. Most fundamentally, humans value freedom of choice. Capitalism maximizes choice. Socialism restricts it for your own good.
Should healthcare and education be free for everyone?
Absolutely, healthcare and education must be free for everyone because they are human rights, not commodities. No one chooses to get sick, and no child chooses the family they're born into. Tying access to money means punishing people for circumstances beyond their control. Capitalism treats these essentials as markets where profit comes first, leaving millions uninsured, in debt, or excluded. Socialism insists that society is stronger, healthier, and more prosperous when every person can see a doctor and get an education without fear of bankruptcy. Free healthcare and education don't just protect individuals, they lift entire economies by creating a healthier, more skilled population. Denying them is not freedom, it's a tax on the poor. Guaranteeing them is the foundation of a just society.
Nothing is truly free, someone always pays. The question is whether healthcare and education are better delivered through market competition or government monopoly. Private systems create superior quality and innovation. America leads in medical breakthroughs precisely because profit incentives drive research. Countries with free healthcare ration care through waiting lists and bureaucratic delays. Ask Canadians traveling to America for surgeries. Competition drives down costs and improves service. LASIK eye surgery and cosmetic procedures, not covered by insurance, have become cheaper and better over time. Meanwhile, heavily regulated healthcare sectors see costs skyrocket. Education follows the same pattern. Private schools consistently outperform public ones with less spending per student. School choice programs show dramatic improvements when parents can select schools competing for their business. Free government services become bloated, inefficient monopolies serving bureaucrats rather than customers. When people pay directly, they demand value. When government pays with other people's money, waste is inevitable. Universal access is better achieved through competitive markets that drive down prices than through government rationing disguised as free services.
Is wealth inequality necessary for innovation?
No, wealth inequality is not necessary for innovation. Innovation comes from creativity, education, and collaboration, not from billionaires hoarding resources. History proves this. The internet, space exploration, vaccines, and countless medical advances were funded by public institutions and collective effort, not private greed. In fact, extreme inequality often stifles innovation because talent from poorer backgrounds is wasted when people can't afford education or must work just to survive. Socialism expands innovation by ensuring everyone has the tools and freedom to contribute. Scientists, artists, and entrepreneurs alike. Rewarding innovation is important, but it doesn't require obscene wealth gaps. It requires a system that values ideas over inherited privilege. Inequality isn't fuel for progress, it's a brake on the full potential of human creativity.
Yes, wealth inequality is absolutely necessary for innovation. Innovation requires massive risk-taking, and without the possibility of substantial rewards, few would attempt it. Consider the entrepreneurs who created our modern world: Jobs, Gates, Bezos, Musk. They risked everything on unproven ideas, often facing years of losses and potential bankruptcy. Would they have taken these risks for equal outcomes? The possibility of great wealth motivated them to work 80-hour weeks and bet their futures on revolutionary concepts. Innovation also requires capital accumulation. Wealthy investors fund thousands of startups, knowing most will fail. Without concentrated, wealth-seeking returns, there's no venture capital to finance new technologies. Socialist countries consistently lag in innovation precisely because they lack these incentive structures. Inequality signals where society most values contribution. High rewards in tech drove talent toward creating smartphones and internet services that transformed civilization. Equal pay would give no signal about where innovation is most needed. Even failed attempts at wealth creation often produce valuable innovations. The pursuit of riches drives experimentation and risk-taking that benefits everyone through new technologies, medicines, and services.
Should essential industries, energy, housing, transport be state-controlled?
Yes, essential industries like energy, housing, and transport must be state-controlled because they are the backbone of society. When left to private corporations, these sectors are run for maximum profit, not human need. Housing becomes speculation, energy prices skyrocket, and transport deserts unprofitable communities. Under socialism, these industries are treated as public goods, reliable, affordable, and universally accessible so no one is denied basic necessities. State control doesn't mean inefficiency, it means democratic accountability, where decisions about vital resources are guided by social need, sustainability, and long-term planning rather than quarterly profits. Profit-driven control of essentials is like letting someone own the air we breathe. By keeping them public, we guarantee fairness, stability, and security for all.
Absolutely not. State control of essential industries guarantees inefficiency, shortages, and stagnation, precisely where we can least afford them. Look at the evidence: Soviet breadlines, Venezuela's oil crisis despite massive reserves, California's rolling blackouts despite abundant resources. When government controls essential industries, they become essentially broken. Competition in these sectors drives innovation that benefits everyone. Private energy companies developed fracking, solar panels, and electric vehicles. Private transport created ride-sharing, efficient logistics, and automotive safety advances. Private housing construction adapts quickly to changing needs and preferences. Essential industries need market signals most urgently. Prices indicate scarcity and abundance, directing resources where needed. Government-controlled prices create shortages, rent control, or surpluses, agricultural subsidies. State control eliminates accountability. Private companies serving customers poorly lose money and fail. Government agencies serving citizens poorly just demand bigger budgets. The most essential industries require the most efficiency, innovation, and responsiveness, exactly what markets provide and government control destroys. Competition ensures these vital needs are met better and cheaper than bureaucratic monopolies ever could.
Does free competition produce better outcomes than central planning?
Free competition may produce short-term efficiency, but it also breeds chaos, inequality, and waste. Companies duplicate efforts, cut corners, exploit workers, and damage the environment, all in pursuit of profit. Central planning, when democratic and flexible, allows society to set priorities: affordable housing, clean energy, healthcare, education. Things markets consistently undersupply because they aren't immediately profitable. Planning doesn't mean banning competition, it means guiding resources toward collective needs rather than gambling on what sells. Capitalism's competition gives us luxury yachts for billionaires, while millions lack homes. Socialism's planning focuses on what actually matters for human well-being. True progress comes not from leaving society to market anarchy, but from coordinated action that aligns innovation with justice and sustainability.
Free competition produces vastly superior outcomes to central planning. This is proven by overwhelming historical evidence and basic economic logic. Competition harnesses millions of minds solving problems simultaneously. No central planner, however brilliant, can match the collective intelligence of markets where countless entrepreneurs experiment with different solutions. Markets process infinite variables, consumer preferences, resource availability, technological possibilities that overwhelm any planning committee. The Soviet Union's collapse definitively settled this debate. Despite abundant resources and educated population, central planning produced chronic shortages, technological stagnation, and economic collapse. Meanwhile, competitive economies created unprecedented prosperity. Competition creates immediate feedback through profit and loss. Successful innovation spread rapidly, failures are quickly abandoned. Central planning lacks this correction mechanism. Failed policies persist for decades because bureaucrats face no market discipline. Look at any sector. Competitive industries, technology, retail show rapid innovation and falling prices. Heavily planned sectors, healthcare, education show stagnation and rising costs. Competition rewards serving others' needs, planning rewards serving political authorities. The incentive structures determine outcomes. Markets optimize for consumer satisfaction, planning optimizes for bureaucratic preferences.
Which system creates more prosperity for the average person? Socialism creates more prosperity for the average person because it ensures that wealth is shared rather than hoarded. In capitalist systems, GDP may rise, but most gains flow to the top while wages stagnate, housing costs explode, and basic needs become luxuries. Prosperity isn't just about averages, it's about whether ordinary people can live securely. Under socialism, prosperity means guaranteed health care, free education, affordable housing, and dignified work so that progress lifts everyone, not just shareholders. Countries that have embraced strong socialist policies consistently show higher life satisfaction, lower poverty, and better public health. Capitalism measures prosperity in profit, socialism measures it in people's quality of life. For the average person, there's no contest. Socialism delivers broader, fairer, and more lasting prosperity.
Capitalism creates dramatically more prosperity for average people than any alternative system. The evidence is overwhelming and undeniable. Since 1800, capitalist countries have seen living standards multiply by factors of 10 to 30x. Average Americans today live better than medieval kings, with air conditioning, automobiles, smartphones, and medical care that would seem miraculous to past generations. Global extreme poverty has plummeted from 90% to under 10% as market economies spread. Countries adopting capitalism, South Korea, Singapore, Chile, Eastern Europe after 1989, see rapid improvements in average living standards. Compare living standards, average Americans versus -1 Venezuelans, South Koreans versus North Koreans, West Germans versus East Germans before reunification. The capitalist populations consistently enjoy higher incomes, better healthcare, more consumer choices, and greater opportunities. Even capitalism's poor live well historically. America's poverty line exceeds median incomes in most socialist countries. Our poor have access to technologies, foods, and services unavailable to the wealthy in planned economies. Capitalism's trickle-down isn't theory, it's observable reality. When the wealthy invest and consume, they create jobs, drive innovation, and increase productivity that benefits everyone.
What motivates people more, profit or social good?
Profit may motivate a few, but social good motivates the many. People dedicate their lives to raising families, teaching, healing, creating art, and building communities not because it makes them rich, but because it gives meaning. Profit-driven systems reduce motivation to money alone, which is why so many jobs under capitalism feel empty or exploitative. Yet when people see their work improving lives, saving patients, educating children, advancing science, they're more driven, not less. Socialism builds on this deeper motivation by ensuring people's basic needs are secure, freeing them to innovate, create, and contribute without fear of poverty. Profit is narrow and short-term, social good is lasting and universal. In the long run, the desire to matter, to help, and to belong motivates people far more powerfully than money ever can.
Profit motivates people more consistently and powerfully than abstract appeals to social good, and capitalism brilliantly aligns these motivations. Human nature shows we prioritize ourselves, our families, and immediate communities over distant strangers. This isn't selfishness, it's evolutionary reality. People work harder for personal gain than for collective causes they barely understand. But capitalism's genius is making profit require serving others. You can only profit by providing goods or services people voluntarily choose to buy. The baker pursuing profit still feeds the community. The innovative entrepreneur seeking wealth still creates jobs and solutions. Socialist systems relying on social motivation consistently fail because they fight human nature. Even in communes and cooperatives, free riders emerge, effort declines, and productivity suffers when personal stakes disappear. Profit provides clear, immediate feedback. You succeed by satisfying customers. Social good is vague and subjective. Whose definition? Decided by whom? Look at results. Profit-motivated pharmaceutical companies develop life-saving drugs. Government research bureaucracies move slowly. Profit-driven farmers feed the world. Collective farms create famines. Capitalism doesn't require perfect people motivated by social good. It transforms self-interest into social benefit automatically.
Should workers own part of the companies they work for?
Yes, workers should own part of the companies they work for, because they are the ones creating the value. Under capitalism, ownership and decision-making are concentrated in the hands of shareholders and executives, while workers who actually produce the goods and services receive only wages. This creates exploitation. Those who do the work have little say, and those who profit often don't contribute. Worker ownership, whether through cooperatives or democratic shareholding, aligns incentives. Workers directly benefit from the success of their labor, and companies focus on long-term stability rather than short-term profit. Studies show worker-owned firms are more resilient, productive, and fair. Socialism extends this principle across the economy. Democracy doesn't stop at the ballot box, it enters the workplace, giving people both dignity and a stake in the wealth they help create.
Workers should be free to own part of companies, and capitalism already enables this better than any alternative system. Many successful companies offer employee stock ownership plans, profit sharing, and stock options. Workers can buy shares in any public company, becoming owners alongside their employment. Capitalism provides multiple paths to worker ownership without coercion, but mandatory worker ownership destroys crucial economic functions. Professional investors bring capital, expertise, and risk management that workers often lack. Forcing worker ownership prevents efficient capital allocation and limits business flexibility. Worker-owned cooperatives can and do exist in capitalist systems. They succeed when market conditions favor them, fail when they don't. Forcing this model universally ignores that different industries and situations require different ownership structures. Consider the problems. Workers might prefer steady wages over volatile ownership returns. They may lack capital to buy into companies. Mandatory ownership could prevent necessary layoffs or restructuring, leading to business failure. The beauty of capitalism is choice. Workers who want ownership can pursue it through entrepreneurship, stock purchases, or joining cooperatives. Those preferring steady employment can choose that path. Both options coexist and thrive.
Does capitalism exploit labor or reward hard work?
Capitalism exploits labor. It doesn't truly reward hard work. Workers produce the goods and services, yet only receive a fraction of the value. They create. The rest is taken as profit by owners. That's exploitation by definition. Those who labor are paid less than the wealth they generate. In capitalism, hard work often leads to exhaustion, not prosperity. Think of nurses, teachers, or delivery drivers who work tirelessly yet struggle to make ends meet. Meanwhile, the wealthy profit simply by owning capital, regardless of effort. Socialism corrects this by ensuring that the fruits of labor are shared fairly, that work is dignified and compensated according to its social value, not according to how much profit it creates for someone else. Hard work should build a good life for the worker, not just wealth for the boss.
Capitalism rewards hard work more fairly than any system in history. Exploitation implies coercion, but capitalist employment is voluntary exchange. Workers freely choose jobs offering the best combination of wages, benefits, and conditions available to them. Competition for workers drives wages up and working conditions improve. Companies must attract and retain talent by offering competitive packages. Bad employers lose good workers to competitors. This market pressure constantly improves worker treatment. Compare capitalist worker conditions over time: 40-hour weeks, safety regulations, benefits packages, and real wages that have risen dramatically. These improvements came from competitive pressure and increasing productivity, not government mandates. Workers in capitalist countries enjoy far better conditions than those in socialist ones. American and European workers have higher wages, more job mobility, and better workplace protections than workers in Cuba, North Korea, or Venezuela. The exploitation narrative ignores that employment creates mutual benefit. Workers gain steady income, skills, and experience. Employers gain productivity. Both parties profit, or they wouldn't agree to the arrangement. Hard work is rewarded through promotions, raises, job mobility, and entrepreneurial opportunities that capitalism uniquely provides.
Is universal basic income compatible with your system?
Yes, universal basic income (UBI) is compatible with socialism, but it must be part of a broader system of guarantees, not a substitute for them. A UBI ensures that no one falls below a minimum standard of living, giving people freedom to pursue education, care work, creativity, or entrepreneurship without the constant fear of poverty. However, socialism insists that essentials like healthcare, housing, and education must remain free and public, because cash alone cannot guarantee access when private markets set prices. In this way, UBI under socialism becomes a tool to expand freedom and security, not a band-aid for capitalist inequality. It empowers workers by giving them leverage, making it harder for employers to exploit desperation. Properly designed, UBI strengthens socialism's goal: dignity and opportunity for all.
Universal basic income could theoretically exist within capitalism, but it contradicts core capitalist principles and would likely undermine the system's effectiveness. Capitalism thrives on work incentives and merit-based rewards. UBI reduces the motivation to work, innovate, and contribute productively. Why take risks starting a business or developing skills when government provides unconditional income? The funding mechanism is problematic. UBI requires massive wealth redistribution through taxation, essentially forcing productive individuals to subsidize non-productivity. This violates property rights and reduces incentives for wealth creation. Markets work because they link rewards to value creation. UBI breaks this connection, allowing people to consume without producing. This creates unsustainable economic imbalances and reduces overall productivity. However, some free market advocates support UBI as a replacement for complex welfare bureaucracies, a single payment instead of dozens of programs with perverse incentives. This libertarian UBI would eliminate welfare bureaucracy and preserve market mechanisms elsewhere. But true capitalism relies on voluntary exchange and earned income. UBI represents forced redistribution that contradicts these principles. Better solutions include job training, education investment, and removing barriers to entrepreneurship that help people earn their own prosperity.
Which model better adapts to automation and AI-driven job loss?
Socialism adapts far better to automation and AI-driven job loss because it treats technological progress as a public good, not a threat. Under capitalism, automation means layoffs, wage cuts, and profits concentrated in the hands of a few tech owners, while workers are left behind. Socialism ensures that the productivity gains from automation benefit everyone: shorter workweeks, higher wages, universal basic income, and expanded public services, so technology liberates people instead of impoverishing them. AI should free humans from drudgery and open space for creativity, learning, and community, but that only happens if society collectively owns and directs the wealth it creates. Otherwise, automation deepens inequality. In socialism, machines work for us all. In capitalism, workers end up working for the machines of the rich.
Capitalism adapts far better to automation and AI because it's designed for constant creative destruction and reinvention, exactly what technological disruption requires. Historical evidence is clear. Capitalism has successfully navigated every major technological revolution. The Industrial Revolution displaced agricultural workers, but created manufacturing jobs. Computers eliminated typing pools but created IT industries. Each wave of automation ultimately created more jobs than it destroyed, often better-paying ones. Markets automatically redirect displaced workers toward new opportunities. Entrepreneurs identify unmet needs and create new industries we can't even imagine today. Who predicted social media management, app development, or drone piloting before those technologies emerged? Capitalism's price signals guide this transition efficiently. Labor shortages in emerging fields drive up wages, attracting workers from declining sectors. Competition incentivizes retraining and skill development. Socialist systems lack this adaptive mechanism. Central planners can't anticipate which new jobs will emerge or efficiently retrain millions of workers. They're inherently reactive rather than innovative. Free markets also drive the beneficial automation that increases productivity and living standards. Resisting technological progress to preserve jobs impoverishes everyone. Markets embrace change and channel it productively.
Which system better protects the poor and vulnerable?
Socialism better protects the poor and vulnerable because it makes their well-being a foundation of the system, not an afterthought. Capitalism often treats poverty as personal failure, offering charity or minimal safety nets only when pressure builds, while the system itself continues to produce inequality. Socialism builds and protects universal health care, housing, education, food security, so no one is left to survive at the mercy of profit-driven markets. Vulnerability is not a niche issue. Anyone can face illness, job loss, or crisis. A just society plans for this collectively, ensuring dignity and security for all. Protecting the vulnerable isn't just moral, it strengthens the entire community, because when the weakest are cared for, everyone is more resilient. In socialism, no life is disposable, every person matters.
Capitalism better protects the poor and vulnerable by creating the wealth and opportunities that lift them out of poverty permanently, rather than just managing their destitution. The greatest anti-poverty program in history is economic growth. Capitalist countries have reduced extreme poverty from 90% to under 10% globally. Market economies create jobs, drive down prices through competition, and generate the tax revenue that funds safety nets. Compare outcomes. America's poor have higher living standards than middle classes in socialist countries. Social mobility is highest in market economies. Children born poor have the greatest chance of rising economically in capitalist systems. Competition protects consumers, especially the poor, by driving down prices and improving quality. Walmart and dollar stores serve low-income communities better than government stores ever could. Generic drugs, discount airlines, and budget retailers emerge from market competition. Capitalism also generates the charitable wealth that funds private assistance. Americans donate more per capita than citizens of any other system. Prosperity enables generosity. Socialist systems create dependency, not opportunity. They trap people in poverty through rationing and bureaucracy rather than creating pathways out. The vulnerable need jobs, affordable goods, and economic mobility. Capitalism delivers all three better than alternatives.
Does your model promote fairness or just efficiency?
Socialism promotes fairness first, and through fairness achieves real efficiency. Capitalism claims efficiency, but often wastes enormous resources on speculation, advertising wars, and luxury goods for a few, while millions lack basics. That isn't efficient, it's distorted. Socialism focuses on fair distribution. Everyone gets healthcare, education, housing, and a dignified wage. When people's needs are met, they can contribute fully, which actually makes the whole system more productive. Fairness isn't about lowering standards, it's about removing barriers so talent and effort are not wasted just because someone was born poor. Efficiency without fairness benefits only the powerful. Fairness with efficiency benefits society as a whole. Socialism proves the two are not opposites. Justice creates the foundation for lasting, meaningful efficiency.
Capitalism promotes the most meaningful form of fairness, equal opportunity and merit-based rewards, while also delivering superior efficiency. True fairness means everyone plays by the same rules and succeeds based on their contributions, not their connections or identity. Capitalism provides this through competitive markets where success depends on serving customers, not political favor. Socialist fairness, equal outcomes regardless of effort, is deeply unfair to those who work harder, innovate more, or contribute greater value. Why should the lazy receive the same rewards as the diligent? That punishes virtue and rewards mediocrity. Capitalism's fairness is dynamic and earned. People can rise or fall based on their choices and efforts. This creates powerful incentives for self-improvement and social contribution that benefit everyone. The efficiency isn't separate from fairness, it's the result of fairness. When rewards match contributions, people have maximum incentive to be productive. This efficiency creates the wealth that raises all living standards. Markets also provide fairness through voluntary exchange. Both parties benefit or they wouldn't trade. No coercion, no exploitation, just mutual advantage. Capitalism's combination of opportunity-based fairness and economic efficiency has created more prosperity and social mobility than any alternative system.
How do you address homelessness?
Socialism addresses homelessness by treating housing as a human right, not a commodity. In capitalism, empty apartments can sit owned by speculators while people sleep on the streets because profit matters more than human dignity. Socialism flips that logic. It ensures public investment in affordable housing, prevents speculation, and guarantees that everyone has a safe place to live. Homelessness is not a natural condition, it's a policy choice born of treating shelter as a market good. A socialist system would build social housing, provide rent controls, and use public ownership to keep housing accessible. The goal is simple. No one should be without a home in a society that has the wealth and resources to provide one. Ending homelessness is not charity, it's justice.
Capitalism addresses homelessness through increased housing supply, job creation, and economic growth, not government programs that often worsen the problem. The root cause of homelessness is housing scarcity driving up prices. Free markets solve this through construction competition, but government regulations prevent it. Zoning laws, building codes, and permitting processes restrict housing supply. Cities like San Francisco have the worst homelessness precisely because they most restrict development. Deregulate construction and housing costs plummet. Houston builds freely and has affordable housing. California restricts building and creates homelessness crises. Capitalism also creates jobs that provide income for housing. Economic growth generates employment opportunities at all skill levels. Many homeless people need work, not welfare. Markets provide jobs while government creates dependency. Private charity addresses immediate needs more efficiently than bureaucratic programs. Religious organizations, nonprofits, and community groups understand local conditions better than distant government agencies. For those with mental health or addiction issues, capitalism generates the wealth that funds treatment programs. Prosperous societies can afford comprehensive care, poor ones cannot. The solution isn't managing homelessness through government spending, it's eliminating the regulations that create housing shortages and the barriers that prevent economic opportunity.
Should billionaires exist?
No, billionaires should not exist, because no individual can ethically earn that level of wealth without extracting it from the labor of others. Billionaires are not proof of freedom or innovation, they're proof of an economic system that allows extreme hoarding while millions lack basics. One person controlling billions means schools unfunded, workers underpaid, and healthcare denied, because that wealth is locked away for private power instead of serving public need. Socialism doesn't oppose success or ambition, it opposes obscene concentrations of wealth that distort democracy by influence and deepen inequality. A just society celebrates innovation and hard work, but ensures their rewards are shared fairly. In short, no one needs $1 billion to live with dignity, but society needs those resources to guarantee dignity for all.
Billionaires should absolutely exist because they represent successful value creation that benefits everyone, not zero-sum wealth extraction. Most billionaires became wealthy by solving massive problems or creating products millions choose to buy. Bill Gates revolutionized computing, Bezos transformed retail and logistics, Musk advanced electric vehicles and space technology. Their wealth reflects the enormous value they created for society. Billionaire wealth isn't sitting idle, it's invested in new businesses, research, and innovation that create jobs and advance technology. When billionaires spend or invest, they drive economic activity that employs millions. Attempting to prevent billionaires requires destroying the mechanisms that create prosperity for everyone. You'd have to limit business success, restrict innovation, or confiscate wealth through massive taxation. This discourages the entrepreneurship and risk-taking that drives progress. Many billionaires also become history's greatest philanthropists. Gates Foundation health initiatives, Buffett's charitable pledges. Private wealth enables private solutions to social problems. The existence of billionaires in a free market proves the system rewards those who serve others best. Their wealth came from voluntary transactions with customers who benefited from their products. This is success, not failure, of the economic system.
Which system better prevents corruption and abuse of power?
Socialism better prevents corruption and abuse of power because it prioritizes transparency, accountability, and collective oversight. Capitalism concentrates wealth, and with it political influence, in the hands of a few, creating a system where corporations and elites can manipulate laws, evade taxes, and exploit workers with little consequence. Socialism spreads economic power more broadly through public ownership, worker participation, and strong social institutions, making it harder for individuals to dominate or act in secret. Democratic mechanisms in workplaces, communities, and government keep decision-making accountable to the people. Corruption thrives where power is unchecked by distributing both resources and control. Socialism reduces opportunities for abuse and aligns authority with public interest rather than private profit.
Capitalism better prevents corruption by dispersing power among millions of competing actors, while socialism concentrates power in ways that guarantee corruption. In free markets, no single entity controls enough power to systematically corrupt the system. Companies must compete for customers who can freely choose alternatives. Bad actors lose market share and profits. Competitors expose each other's wrongdoing through competition. Government power creates corruption because it's monopolistic and coercive. When politicians control economic decisions, businesses must lobby and bribe for favorable treatment rather than compete on merit. The bigger the government, the more corruption it attracts. Socialist systems are corruption factories because they concentrate economic and political power in the same hands. Soviet leaders lived in luxury while citizens starved. Venezuelan officials steal oil wealth while the country collapses. When government controls everything, government officials become untouchable. Capitalism's corruption, like corporate fraud, is punished by markets through lost profits and criminal prosecution. Socialist corruption is systemic and unpunishable because the corrupt control the punishment mechanisms. The most corrupt countries are those with large government sectors. The least corrupt have strong property rights and free markets. Economic freedom and low corruption consistently correlate across all nations and time periods.
Why did the Soviet Union collapse, and what does that say about socialism?
The Soviet Union collapsed not because socialism itself is flawed, but because it was implemented in an authoritarian, top-down, and isolated way. True socialism relies on democracy, transparency, and participation. The USSR concentrated power in a bureaucratic elite, stifled innovation, and disconnected citizens from decision-making. Its failure shows that socialism, without democratic control, leads to inefficiency and oppression, not that socialism, as a principle, is unworkable. Modern socialist models, like in Scandinavia or cooperative economies, combine social ownership, strong safety nets, and democratic governance, avoiding the mistakes of the USSR. Socialism's core goal, fair distribution, public welfare, and worker empowerment, remains valid. The lesson is that how it's implemented matters far more than the ideal itself.
The Soviet Union collapsed because socialist central planning is economically impossible and politically unsustainable, proving socialism's fundamental flaws. Central planners lacked the information needed to coordinate a complex economy. Without market prices, they couldn't know what to produce, how much, or where resources were most needed. This created chronic shortages, surpluses, and massive waste. Citizens waited in breadlines while warehouses rotted with unwanted goods. Innovation stagnated because there were no profit incentives for improvement. Why develop better products when success brought no rewards? The USSR fell decades behind in computers, telecommunications, and consumer goods despite having educated scientists. Political oppression was inevitable because socialism requires forcing people to work for collective goals against their natural self-interest. This demanded massive surveillance, gulags, and authoritarian control that ultimately became unsustainable. The Soviet collapse wasn't due to external pressure or bad leaders, it was systemic failure. Every socialist experiment has failed. Cuba, Venezuela, North Korea remain impoverished while their capitalist neighbors prosper. The USSR's collapse definitively proved that markets work and central planning doesn't. Countries that abandoned socialism for capitalism, Poland, Estonia, Czech Republic, immediately began prospering. This historical experiment settled the debate conclusively.
Why does unregulated capitalism often lead to financial crises?
Unregulated capitalism often leads to financial crises because it prioritizes short-term profit over stability, ignores systemic risk, and rewards speculation. Banks and corporations take excessive risks to maximize returns, knowing that losses are often socialized through bailouts. Markets left entirely to themselves create bubbles, housing, stocks, or tech that inevitably burst, leaving workers and ordinary people to bear the costs. Without regulation, inequality grows, demand falters, and economic shocks hit hardest on those with the least security. Socialism prevents these crises by planning strategically, regulating financial systems, and ensuring that wealth and risk are shared more fairly. Stability, not profit alone, becomes the goal, protecting society from the cycles of boom and collapse that unregulated capitalism repeatedly produces.
Financial crises actually stem from government interference, not free markets. Truly unregulated capitalism would prevent most crises through natural market discipline. The 2008 crisis resulted from government-sponsored entities Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac artificially inflating housing demand, Federal Reserve keeping interest rates artificially low, and government mandating loans to unqualified borrowers. Banks took excessive risks because they expected taxpayer bailouts, and got them. In genuine free markets, failing banks would simply fail, teaching harsh lessons about risk management. Instead, government bailouts create moral hazard, privatizing profits while socializing losses encourages reckless behavior. The Great Depression was worsened by Federal Reserve monetary contraction and government intervention that prevented natural recovery. Countries with less intervention recovered faster. Boom-bust cycles are often created by central bank manipulation of interest rates and money supply, not market forces. Austrian economists predicted these crises by analyzing government distortions. Pure capitalism includes failure as a disciplining mechanism. When government removes consequences through bailouts, deposit insurance, and too-big-to-fail policies, It eliminates market discipline that prevents excessive risk-taking. The solution isn't more regulation, it's removing government interference that creates perverse incentives and moral hazard.
Which modern country best represents your ideology?
Countries like Norway, Sweden, and Denmark best represent modern socialism, not in the sense of abolishing markets, but in combining strong social welfare, democratic institutions, and economic equality with innovation and private enterprise. These nations guarantee universal health care, free education, robust labor protections, and high standards of living, showing that wealth and opportunity can be shared broadly without sacrificing efficiency or growth. They demonstrate that socialism today means balancing collective well-being with individual initiative, reducing inequality while empowering citizens. Unlike the USSR, these models are democratic, accountable, and adaptable, proving that socialism is not a rigid ideology, but a practical framework for fairness, prosperity, and security in the 21st century.
No modern country perfectly represents pure capitalism, but several come closest to the ideal with impressive results. Singapore exemplifies many capitalist principles: minimal business regulations, low taxes, strong property rights, and free trade. It transformed from developing to developed status in decades, achieving high prosperity with limited natural resources. Switzerland combines economic freedom with political stability. Its decentralized system, banking privacy, low corporate taxes, and minimal bureaucracy create conditions where entrepreneurship thrives. Swiss living standards consistently rank among world's highest. Hong Kong before recent political changes demonstrated pure free market capitalism. Minimal government, no tariffs, simple tax system, and maximum economic freedom made it incredibly prosperous despite having no natural resources. New Zealand reformed dramatically in the 1980s, deregulating industries, privatizing state enterprises, and reducing government size. It went from economic decline to sustained growth and high living standards. Even the United States, despite growing government intervention, still demonstrates capitalism's power through its innovation, entrepreneurship, and wealth creation. These examples show that countries adopting more capitalist policies, lower taxes, fewer regulations, stronger property rights, freer trade, consistently achieve higher prosperity, innovation, and living standards than those with more socialist policies.
How do you explain the failures of your system in practice?
Failures of socialism in practice usually stem not from its principles, but from poor implementation, authoritarianism, lack of democracy, corruption, or isolation from global markets. When power is concentrated in a small elite, as in the USSR, decision-making becomes inefficient and disconnected from the people. Innovation stagnates, and rights are suppressed. True socialism relies on democratic control, transparency, and accountability. Without these, the system can fail. Modern examples, like the Nordic countries, show that when socialism is implemented with participatory governance, strong institutions, and respect for human rights, it succeeds. The lesson: socialism works best when it empowers people rather than elites, guarantees basic rights, and balances collective welfare with individual freedom.
The alleged failures of capitalism are actually failures of government intervention in markets, not free market capitalism itself. Most problems blamed on capitalism, the financial crises, monopolies, worker exploitation, environmental damage, result from government distortions, regulations that favor incumbents, or lack of proper property rights enforcement. Take monopolies. They rarely persist in truly free markets because competitors can always enter. Lasting monopolies usually result from government-granted privileges, patents, regulations that prevent competition, or crony capitalism where businesses buy political protection. Environmental problems often stem from unclear property rights. When no one owns resources like air or water, they get overused. Private ownership creates incentives for conservation. Forest companies replant trees. Private parks maintain wildlife better than government ones. Financial crises follow government intervention. Artificially low interest rates, bailout guarantees, mandated lending practices. Pure capitalism would let bad banks fail, preventing moral hazard. Worker exploitation was worse during early industrialization when capitalism was mixed with feudal remnants and government-enforced class systems. As markets became freer, working conditions improved dramatically. True capitalism hasn't been fully tried. Every capitalist country has massive government intervention. The failures attributed to capitalism are actually arguments for more economic freedom, not less.
Which historical leader best represents your system's ideals?
A historical leader who best represents socialism's ideals in practice is Olof Palme of Sweden. He championed universal health care, free education, strong labor rights, and social welfare while maintaining democratic institutions and a market economy, showing that socialism can improve equality without authoritarianism. Unlike leaders who concentrated power or suppressed freedoms, Palme combined social justice with democratic governance, international solidarity, and respect for individual rights. His policies reduced poverty, promoted worker participation, and ensured that wealth served the many, not just a privileged few. Leaders like him demonstrate that socialism is about fairness, dignity, and collective well-being, implemented through democracy and accountability rather than coercion or centralized dictatorship.
No single historical leader perfectly embodies capitalist ideals, since capitalism fundamentally limits government power while most leaders sought to expand it. The closest would be leaders who reduced government intervention and expanded economic freedom. Ronald Reagan championed deregulation, tax cuts, and free markets, helping revive American economic growth in the 1980s. His policies demonstrated how reducing government barriers unleashes entrepreneurship and prosperity. Margaret Thatcher transformed Britain by privatizing state industries, reducing union power, and cutting regulations. Her reforms ended Britain's economic decline and restored growth through market mechanisms. Calvin Coolidge presided over the Roaring Twenties prosperity by keeping government small, taxes low, and regulations minimal. He believed the business of America is business and let markets drive unprecedented economic expansion. However, capitalism's true leaders aren't politicians but entrepreneurs and innovators. Andrew Carnegie, John D. Rockefeller, Henry Ford, Steve Jobs, and Bill Gates. They created wealth, jobs, and innovations that improved millions of lives through voluntary exchange, not political power. Capitalism's genius is that it doesn't require great leaders. It harnesses ordinary people's self-interest for social benefit through market mechanisms that work regardless of who holds political office.
Does globalization strengthen or weaken your system?
Globalization can strengthen socialism if managed democratically because it allows access to knowledge, technology, and trade while spreading social standards globally. Unregulated globalization under capitalism, however, exploits workers, evades regulations, and shifts profits to multinational corporations, deepening inequality. Socialism uses globalization to share resources, coordinate environmental protections, and ensure fair labor practices across borders. It can expand markets for cooperative enterprises, improve public services through international collaboration, and prevent a race to the bottom in wages or environmental standards. The key is governance. Globalization doesn't inherently weaken socialism, it challenges capitalism's inequality and offers an opportunity to extend fairness, solidarity, and prosperity worldwide.
Globalization dramatically strengthens capitalism by expanding markets, increasing competition, and maximizing the benefits of free trade. It's capitalism on a global scale. International trade allows countries to specialize in what they do best, creating massive efficiency gains. Americans get cheaper electronics from Asia while exporting advanced services and technology. Everyone benefits from accessing global talent, resources, and markets. Competition becomes global, preventing local monopolies and driving continuous innovation. Companies must compete with the world's best, forcing them to improve constantly or lose market share to superior foreign competitors. Globalization has lifted billions from poverty as developing countries gain access to global markets, investment, and technology transfer. China, India, and Southeast Asia experienced unprecedented growth by joining global capitalist networks. Capital flows globally seek the highest returns, funding development worldwide. Multinational corporations spread technology, management practices, and job opportunities to previously isolated regions. Critics blame globalization for job losses, but this reflects capitalism's creative destruction. Inefficient industries decline while new ones emerge. The displaced American manufacturing worker may become a service provider or tech worker in higher value industries. Globalization proves capitalism works across cultures, political systems, and development levels. It's the most powerful poverty reduction force in human history.
Which model better addresses climate change?
Socialism better addresses climate change because it prioritizes collective well-being over private profit. Capitalism treats the environment as a resource to exploit, rewarding short-term gains while externalizing costs like pollution and deforestation. Socialism allows coordinated planning of energy, transport, and industry, investing in renewable infrastructure, enforcing emissions limits, and ensuring sustainable practices without waiting for market incentives. It treats the planet as a shared resource, aligning economic activity with ecological limits. By combining public ownership, democratic control, and long-term planning, socialism can reduce emissions, protect ecosystems, and transition to a green economy, turning climate action from optional charity into a societal priority that benefits everyone.
Capitalism better addresses climate change through innovation, efficiency, and market incentives, not government mandates that often backfire. Market forces are already driving the clean energy transition. Solar and wind became cheaper than fossil fuels through competitive innovation, not subsidies. Tesla made electric vehicles desirable through superior performance, spurring entire industry transformation. Capitalism rewards resource efficiency because waste reduces profits. Companies constantly seek ways to use less energy, materials, and inputs. This natural incentive aligns environmental and economic interests without coercion. Carbon pricing through cap-and-trade creates market incentives for emission reduction while allowing flexible, cost-effective solutions. Companies find the cheapest ways to cut emissions rather than following rigid government mandates. Innovation is capitalism's greatest strength. Nuclear power, carbon capture, fusion energy, and breakthrough technologies emerge from profit-motivated research and venture capital investment. Socialist countries have terrible environmental records: Soviet pollution, Chinese smog, Cuban deforestation. Central planners prioritize production targets over environmental costs because they face no market discipline. Wealthy capitalist societies can afford clean technology and environmental protection. Poor socialist ones cannot. Prosperity enables environmental stewardship. Capitalism creates the wealth needed for both economic growth and environmental protection.
Should immigration be encouraged or restricted in your system?
Socialism supports welcoming and integrating immigrants because human dignity and opportunity should not depend on birthplace. Restricting immigration often serves to protect profits, depress wages, or scapegoat vulnerable populations' practices rooted in capitalist self-interest. A socialist system ensures that newcomers have access to healthcare, education, housing, and fair labor conditions, allowing them to contribute fully to society. Immigration under socialism strengthens communities, diversifies talent, and fosters solidarity, rather than creating competition for survival. Borders should protect rights and safety, not reinforce inequality. True prosperity and justice come when all people, native and immigrant alike, share in the benefits of collective resources, ensuring fairness, security, and opportunity for everyone.
Immigration should be encouraged because it strengthens capitalism by expanding markets, increasing labor mobility, and enhancing competition, all core free market principles. Free movement of labor is as beneficial as free movement of goods and capital. Immigrants fill labor shortages, start businesses at higher rates than natives, and bring diverse skills and perspectives that drive innovation. Silicon Valley's success stems largely from immigrant entrepreneurs and engineers. Competition improves everything, including labor markets. Immigration prevents domestic workers from becoming complacent and pushes wages toward productivity levels. It also provides workers for jobs natives won't take and skills natives lack. Immigrants are natural capitalists. They risk everything to seek better opportunities, embody entrepreneurial spirit, and work harder than average to succeed. They strengthen capitalism's cultural foundations. Economic evidence overwhelmingly shows immigration creates net benefits: more jobs, higher wages overall, increased innovation, and economic growth. Immigrants don't take jobs, they create demand for goods and services that generates employment. However, welfare states can create perverse incentives by attracting those seeking benefits rather than opportunity. The solution isn't restricting immigration but reforming welfare to ensure immigrants come for economic opportunity, not government handouts. Free markets and free movement of people naturally complement each other.
Which system is more likely to avoid wars?
Socialism is more likely to avoid wars because it reduces the economic and political incentives that drive conflict. Capitalism often fuels wars over resources, markets, and profits, with corporations and elites benefiting while ordinary people suffer. Socialism emphasizes cooperation, international solidarity, and shared prosperity, making disputes more likely to be resolved through diplomacy and mutual aid rather than force. When societies prioritize human welfare over private gain, there is less reason to exploit others or compete violently. By addressing inequality, ensuring security, and fostering global collaboration, socialism transforms potential sources of conflict into opportunities for peaceful development, reducing both internal and external pressures that historically lead to war.
Capitalism promotes peace through economic interdependence and mutual benefit, while socialism breeds conflict through resource competition and ideological control. The capitalist peace theory is well supported. Countries with free markets and trade relationships rarely fight each other. War disrupts profitable commerce, so businesses lobby for peaceful resolution. McDonald's countries don't fight McDonald's countries because they're economically integrated. Trade creates mutual dependence. Attacking your customers or suppliers hurts yourself. Nations become stakeholders in each other's prosperity rather than zero-sum competitors. Economic ties give everyone incentives to resolve disputes peacefully. Socialist states historically started more wars, Soviet interventions, Chinese expansion, Cuban adventurism. When governments control everything, they can mobilize entire societies for conflict without market constraints or business opposition. Capitalism channels competitive instincts into economic rather than military competition. Countries compete for markets, investment, and talent instead of territory. Economic competition improves everyone's living standards. Military competition destroys wealth. Free trade also spreads prosperity, reducing the desperation and resource scarcity that often drive conflict. Prosperous societies have less reason for war and more to lose from it. The most peaceful regions, Western Europe, North America, are also the most economically integrated and market-oriented.
Which is better at handling pandemics and global crises?
Socialism is better at handling pandemics and global crises because it prioritizes public welfare over private profit. Universal health care, strong social safety nets, and coordinated planning allow rapid testing, treatment, and vaccination for everyone, not just those who can pay. In capitalism, access to medicine, hospital care, and essential goods is often unequal, leaving vulnerable populations exposed while corporations profit from scarcity. Socialism enables governments to mobilize resources efficiently, protect workers, and maintain public services during emergencies. By treating health and safety as collective responsibilities, it minimizes loss of life, prevents systemic collapse, and ensures that crises are managed for the good of all, rather than the enrichment of a few.
Capitalism handles pandemics and global crises far better through rapid innovation, efficient resource allocation, and decentralized decision-making that socialist systems cannot match. COVID-19 proved this decisively. Private pharmaceutical companies developed multiple vaccines in record time through competitive innovation and profit incentives. Pfizer, Moderna, and others invested billions at risk, achieving in months what typically takes years. Socialist systems produced no major vaccine breakthroughs. Market supply chains adapted quickly to shortages, ramping up production of masks, ventilators, and medical supplies. Private companies retooled factories overnight. Distilleries made hand sanitizer. Automakers built ventilators. Government bureaucracies moved too slowly. Decentralized capitalism allows millions of actors to respond simultaneously with local knowledge. Centralized socialist planning creates bottlenecks and delays when quick adaptation is crucial. Price signals guide resources to where they're most needed during crises. Higher prices for scarce goods incentivize increased production and conservation. Socialist price controls create shortages when abundance is most critical. Private healthcare systems, despite higher costs, delivered better pandemic outcomes through superior intensive care capacity, medical technology, and treatment innovation. Competition between approaches, different countries, states, companies, reveals what works fastest, allowing rapid adoption of successful strategies.
Should AI and robots be privately owned or collectively shared?
AI and robots should be collectively shared. not privately hoarded, because their power can either liberate or exploit. Private ownership under capitalism concentrates wealth and control, letting a few profit while displacing workers and widening inequality. Socialism ensures that automation and AI serve society, increasing productivity, reducing toil, and expanding access to goods and services for everyone. Collective ownership allows the benefits higher wages, shorter work weeks, universal services to be distributed fairly, while ethical oversight prevents misuse or concentration of power. Technology should amplify human freedom and well-being, not enrich elites at the expense of the majority. In short, AI under socialism works for all, not just for the profit of a few.
AI and robots should absolutely be privately owned. This ensures maximum innovation, efficiency, and beneficial development for society. Private ownership creates powerful incentives for AI advancement. Companies invest billions in R&D because they can profit from breakthroughs. Google, OpenAI, and Tesla push AI boundaries through competitive pressure and profit motivation. Government-owned AI development would move at bureaucratic speed. Competition between private AI companies benefits everyone through rapid improvement and cost reduction. Multiple firms racing to create better, cheaper AI drives faster progress than monopolistic government control ever could. Private ownership allows diverse approaches and experimentation. Different companies pursue different AI strategies. Some focus on language models, others on robotics, computer vision, or specialized applications. This diversity increases chances of breakthrough discoveries. Market forces ensure AI serves human needs. Companies must create AI that customers actually want and find useful, or they fail. Government-controlled AI serves bureaucratic priorities, not consumer preferences. Private property rights also enable proper accountability. When AI causes problems, private owners face lawsuits, losses, and liability. Government entities escape consequences through sovereign immunity. Collective ownership would create the same problems as all socialist enterprises: no incentive for excellence, slow innovation, and political rather than economic decision-making.
Which system leads to a more moral society?
Socialism leads to a more moral society because it aligns economic structures with human dignity, fairness, and solidarity. Capitalism rewards selfishness, exploitation, and profit at the expense of the vulnerable, often forcing people to choose survival over ethics. Socialism ensures that basic needs, healthcare, housing, education are met, reducing desperation and coercion. It promotes cooperation, shared responsibility, and democratic participation, creating a culture where people can act ethically without being constrained by inequality or poverty. Morality thrives when society empowers individuals to care for others rather than forcing them to compete ruthlessly. By prioritizing justice, equity, and collective welfare, socialism creates conditions where moral choices are not luxuries but the foundation of daily life.
Capitalism creates more moral societies by aligning individual success with serving others and rewarding virtuous behavior through voluntary exchange. In free markets, you can only profit by providing goods or services others voluntarily choose to buy. This makes self-interest serve the common good. The baker gets rich by feeding people, the doctor by healing them. Capitalism transforms greed into generosity through market mechanisms. Voluntary exchange is inherently moral. Both parties benefit or they wouldn't trade. No coercion, no exploitation, just mutual advantage. Socialist systems require force to make people work for collective goals against their natural interests. Capitalism rewards virtue, hard work, innovation, customer service, reliability, and honesty. Dishonest businesses lose customers, lazy workers don't advance. Market feedback encourages moral behavior more effectively than government mandates. Prosperity enables charity and philanthropy. Wealthy capitalist societies donate more to charity than socialist ones. Americans give more per capita than any other system. Prosperity creates generosity. Property rights teach responsibility. When you own something, you care for it. When everything is collective property, nobody maintains it. Competition prevents the concentration of power that corrupts. In socialism, political elites control everything and become corrupt. Capitalism disperses power among millions of competing actors, preventing systematic abuse. Free markets create moral incentives. Socialism requires moral people but provides immoral incentives.
Which offers the better vision of human freedom?
Socialism offers a better vision of human freedom because it frees people from the constraints of poverty, debt, and exploitation. True freedom is not just the ability to buy or sell, it's the ability to live securely, pursue education, express creativity, and participate in decisions that shape your life. Capitalism often equates freedom with wealth, leaving the majority dependent, overworked, or excluded. Socialism guarantees basic rights: healthcare, housing, education, fair wages so everyone can make meaningful choices without being trapped by survival struggles. By combining security with democratic control over resources and workplaces, socialism transforms freedom from a privilege of the wealthy into a reality for all, empowering people to thrive, contribute, and shape their societies.
Capitalism offers the ultimate vision of human freedom, the liberty to choose your own path, pursue your own dreams, and keep the fruits of your labor. True freedom means making your own decisions about work, consumption, investment, and lifestyle without government interference. Capitalism maximizes choice: which job to take, what to buy, where to live, how to spend your time and money. Every decision remains yours. Economic freedom enables all other freedoms. When government controls the economy, it controls your life. You can't speak freely against those who control your job, housing, and food. Economic dependence creates political servitude. Capitalism's freedom is positive: the freedom to act, create, innovate, and improve your condition through effort and merit. Socialist freedom is often negative: freedom from responsibility, competition, and consequences, which isn't freedom at all. Market societies protect minority rights through competition. If one employer discriminates, others compete for that talent. Government monopolies offer no alternatives. Property rights are fundamental human rights. The ability to own things, control your resources, and benefit from your work is essential to human dignity. Collective ownership reduces individuals to mere cogs in the state machine. Capitalism trusts individuals to make their own choices. Socialism assumes people are too stupid to govern themselves and need elite guidance.
In 100 years, which system is more likely to dominate the world?
In 100 years, socialism is more likely to dominate because it addresses the fundamental challenges of inequality, climate change, automation, and global crisis problems capitalism repeatedly fails to solve. As resources become scarce, technology advances, and societies demand fairness and sustainability, systems that prioritize collective well-being, democratic control, and shared prosperity will outperform those based solely on profit. Capitalism's short-term focus, environmental destruction, and concentration of wealth are unsustainable in the long run. Socialism offers a model that adapts to new technologies, protects human rights, and balances freedom with responsibility, making it the system most capable of ensuring long-term stability, justice, and flourishing for the majority of humanity.
Capitalism will dominate the world in 100 years because it's the only system that adapts to technological change, delivers prosperity, and aligns with human nature consistently over time. History shows socialism always fails eventually: Soviet Union, Eastern Europe, Venezuela. Countries move from socialism to capitalism, never the reverse. China's growth came from adopting capitalist markets. Cuba is slowly following suit. Future challenges like AI, automation, climate change, and space exploration require massive innovation and adaptation. Only capitalism's competitive markets and profit incentives can drive the technological breakthroughs needed. Socialist central planning cannot handle such complexity. Demographic trends favor capitalism. Aging populations need productivity growth to support retirees. Only capitalist innovation delivers this. Socialist systems collapse under demographic pressure because they lack growth mechanisms. Global competition ensures survival of the fittest. Economic systems. Countries with freer markets consistently outcompete those with more government control. This competitive pressure will eliminate socialist experiments over time. Younger generations in socialist countries increasingly demand economic freedom and opportunity. Technology makes capitalist prosperity visible worldwide, creating irresistible pressure for reform. The future belongs to systems that unleash human potential, not suppress it.
If you had to bet on humanity's survival, which system gives us the best chance?
I would bet on socialism because it gives humanity the best chance to survive and thrive. Survival depends on cooperation, planning, and fairness, ensuring everyone has access to food, healthcare, housing, and education. Capitalism, by prioritizing profit over people and the planet, accelerates inequality, environmental destruction, and social instability, leaving humanity vulnerable to crises. Socialism channels resources and technology collectively, addresses climate change, manages pandemics, adapts to automation, and reduces conflict. By aligning human progress with ethical responsibility and collective well-being, socialism maximizes resilience, safeguards the vulnerable, and creates a society capable of surviving and flourishing long-term. In short, our survival depends not on wealth for the few, but justice and care for all.
Capitalism gives humanity the best chance of survival because it's the only system that consistently generates the innovation, wealth, and adaptability needed to overcome existential challenges. Every major threat to human survival, disease, climate change, resource scarcity, natural disasters, even asteroid impacts, requires technological solutions that only competitive markets reliably produce. Capitalist societies develop vaccines, clean energy, space technology, and life-extending medicine through profit-driven innovation. Capitalism's decentralized structure provides resilience. When one company, region, or approach fails, thousands of others continue innovating. Socialist systems create single points of failure. When central planning fails, entire societies collapse. Survival requires rapid adaptation to changing conditions. Markets adapt continuously through price signals and competition. Central planning responds slowly to existential threats requiring immediate innovation. Historical evidence is clear. Capitalist societies survive crises better. They mobilized faster in world wars, recovered quicker from disasters, and consistently outlasted socialist competitors. Future challenges like AI alignment, space colonization, or genetic engineering need diverse experimentation from competing entities, not bureaucratic committees making single baits. Capitalism harnesses humanity's competitive drive constructively, channeling our survival instincts toward innovation rather than destructive conflict. It's our species' best evolutionary adaptation for long-term survival.